I've been wanting to make a video about the love of God for some time now, several months actually. And so I was thinking, why don't I make the video? What is the problem? What is going on that's causing me such difficulty in making a video about the love of God? And so I contemplated. Eventually, I asked my wife. It's probably been 3 weeks ago now. And I asked her about it, and she said, well, it's because there is no way to use words to explain it. It can't be done. And that was pretty helpful for me, because I realized that this is why I'm having so much trouble with trying to make a video on this, because she is expressing what I was feeling also. And but I've been meaning to make this, and interestingly, I was talking to my brother this morning, and when we were discussing spiritual topics, and he said, well, when are you going to make your next video? Because it's been a while, because I've been driving up 500 miles north of here to my daughter's house and back and forth, and been extremely busy. And in fact, I might get in a position where I won't be able to make videos very often for the next year or two. We'll see how it goes, because I may be building a house for myself, and it's going to take all my time, which I don't really look forward to, but it's not like I don't know how to do that. But that's a different subject. But he asked me that because I haven't made a video for a couple of weeks, and I said, I think I'm going to make the video today on the love of God. And he started laughing and said, I've been thinking about asking you to do that for the last week or so. And then another person, after I got done talking to my brother, was asking me that same question in a writing or a question on one of the videos I made. He asked me the same question. So obviously, so to say, the planets have aligned or whatever, to get me to talk about this, because obviously it's a subject matter that is near and dear to a lot of people. A lot of people are concerned about what does that actually mean. And so I was thinking, there's a concept, and the concept goes like, if you experience something, maybe somebody shot you with a gun but it didn't kill you, or maybe this or that, or maybe you experience the taste of something that isn't very common, of a food or something. You actually have to think of words to define what that experience was by relating it to something else, especially if it's something that is uncommon. And so this is where you've heard of aficionados of cigars, or you've heard wine connoisseurs. Another one that's dear and near to me is audiophiles that are into super high quality sound. When I say sound, I'm talking music. They're music systems, because they just happen to love listening to music. It's extremely comforting and calming for some people. I happen to be one of them. And so they use all kinds of different language to define what it is that they're hearing. And if you're not in that small circle of people, you wouldn't know what they were talking about, because they're using words like, well, it's the sweet spot, or this or that, or I'm not a very good, my vocabulary is not the greatest in the world, so I already have difficulty trying to convey a concept that is well known to me, but difficult to convey to somebody else. And so you know how you have to come up with some sort of a way to convey, it's like a sharp knife poking in your side, is what someone will say if they're having an appendicitis or something of that nature. And it's like, oh, so are you saying you've had a sharp knife poked into your side? Well, no. Well, then how do you know it's like a sharp knife poking into your side? Well, because I've heard somebody else say that, and so, yeah, it would seem like I don't know, I've never been poked in the side by a sharp knife, but so you see where I'm going with that. You're always looking for something else to define what it is, because there is no way to convey what it is. You can't do it. It's not possible. So God communicates in such a way that words are not necessary. Not only not necessary, they're not used, at least to us in our physical situation. And so when that is conveyed to you personally, now you are tasked with the job of trying to find words to define what it is. Well, you could say, well, you're just groping for some sort of words. And that's why when my wife answered, well, I don't know. And I'm 100% sure I know that my wife knows what love is. And I'm speaking about, very few people understand that the love of God, I know the Greeks have different names for different kinds of love, but really there's only one kind of love. And the love of God, which is basically the same thing as a husband and wife have for each other if they really are experiencing true love, can't be conveyed in words. You can say these are the byproducts of love. This is what a person would do. Well, they would be dedicated. They would not betray that person, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not love. That's just a byproduct of love. It's not really defining what love is. And so that's where I'm at. It's a very difficult concept to convey, especially given the fact that almost nobody has ever received, shall I say, a powerful message to them directly to them personally, of the love of God, which is coming to you from God. That very few. I mean, there's a lot of people that use platitudes, or they'll say, well, I know that God loves me because the flowers are blooming every day and I can feel the breeze blowing through the air. Therefore, I know that God loves me. Okay, well, that isn't to you personally. That's just the reality as it's playing out. And you're making it up. You have no idea whether or not God loves you. You don't know. You're just guessing. Unless you have a personal experience directly from God to you. And in this particular reality that we are living, that isn't supposed to happen. You're actually supposed to live on your own in this reality. Why do you think Jesus was hanging on the cross? And it is said that he said, and I assume that it's probably correct to a certain degree, that he said, why have you forsaken me, Father? And of course, his faith is being tested to the absolute limits. Who knows what he thought that was going to happen? But the bottom line is, it's recorded that he said, "Why have you forsaken me?" Well, that's a pretty clear indication that he was not, shall I say, at that particular time, feeling the superpower of love. And that's a whole different story I will maybe have to go into someday about the nature of the atonement that he did. But in dealing with love of God, people don't have anything to go on. And this is why people have proclivities that they're easily swayed or tempted into ways of evil, so to say, or to be persuaded into committing horrible acts or becoming atheist or all sorts of actions based upon they don't know. They don't know that God loves them. And even if there is a God, I mean, how would you know if you don't have it personal to you? So my own personal experience occurred when I was, I would say, almost 50 years old. So I had spent 35, 40 years of my life running on faith, if you will, thinking God was one way, but not knowing for sure, because I never up to that point had any proof positive of what the love of God really is. It was all speculation up to that point. And that's what everyone lives on, is speculation. So if your life is semi-okay, meaning you live a life and it's like, well, it's okay, it's not bad, it's not good, but it's just, well, you're never going to be pushed to a situation where it's a life or death situation. Spiritually speaking, it is, you never get to a situation where it's a life or death situation, spiritually speaking. Think about the situations where, what I just said, when people are in a life or death situation, let's say they're starving to death, they will take a gun and, unless they have an extreme, powerful self-control, they're not just going to sit there and starve to death. They are going to do something. And if they have to take up arms to rob someone or actually harm someone, you never know what a person's going to do until that life or death situation presents itself to where it is absolutely real. So, on a side note, that's why the governments always make sure that come hell or high water, there's food, because they know that in a life or death situation, the citizens will revolt. And, well, needless to say, there won't be any more politicians left after that. So they know that. Side note over. But when you have that situation, life or death, spiritually, that's where I was at some 18 years ago now. It's been 18, 19 years ago. And I got to the point where it was a life or death scenario, spiritually speaking. And excuse me, I went ahead and I asked God personally for a manifestation for help for some sort of, because I was not, when I say I threw in the towel, I just gave up any hope that God loved me. Because I was 100% convinced that God didn't love me. And I justified that with the fact that, in my youth, I was not the best person in the world, or, convoluted believing that I wouldn't be loved by God because I use foul language, or who knows? I mean, you can convince yourself of all kinds of things after a lifelong struggle with no evidence whatsoever that God loves you. And that's where I was at. And for me, that didn't taint my love for God in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, it strengthened my love for God to the point where I say that it was equal to the love that Jesus has and had for his Father in heaven, which is Brahma. And that's where I was at. Well, after that situation occurred, I had confirmation from God directly to me personally that God loves me. Okay, well, now how do I convey that to you? How do I convey what the love of God is? How do I do that? I have it. I felt it personally, and I use the word felt. That's not even it. I'm just using, it's like the guy saying, well, the indigestion was really bad, doctor. It feels like somebody's stabbing you in the heart. Okay, well, have you been stabbed in the heart? No. Well, then how do you know? Well, I don't know, but I'm just giving you the best example that I can to define what my indigestion is, or this or that, or whatever. So that's the same thing I'm trying to do. And I can't. I can't tell you. But I can tell you the byproduct, okay? The byproduct is this incredible feeling that my control of the human body disallowed me a calm composure. Tears came from my eyes. And if I think about it, like right now, if I think about it too much, like if I were to meditate upon that, and it's not like remembering it because it occurred 18 years ago, it is occurring endlessly, always, right now, this very moment. But I can distract myself with like making videos, or I can distract myself with all the things of this world by thinking, well, I'm thirsty, I got to drink something, or I'm hungry, or whatever. You can always distract yourself. But if you think about it and meditate, then it's there. And I feel it still, because it's never ending. And as I said, the only way I can define it, kind of, is it brings tears to your eyes. And, well, that's not a good thing for a man to do in public. It's like, I don't know. I don't know why it's not a good thing, but it just seems like it's not a good thing. And so as a man, you control that sort of thing, and you try not to think about it in such a way when you're around public that you're not crying. But at least you know when I say that, the byproduct of it. And what does it motivate you to do? Well, it motivates you, you're drawn to God. You realize that God loves you so much that it's like there is absolutely no way you can supersede that in any way, shape, or form. No one ever has. No God ever has. No deity ever has. No, Jesus Christ has never superseded that love of God that God has for you. But how would you know in this physical world? You wouldn't. Unless you've had a direct revelation, vision, inculcation put into you where you've allowed it to happen, you wouldn't know. And so you're just functioning on a basis of not knowing. It's like enlightenment, for instance. People talk about it all the time. And it's like, well, what is it that they have that I don't have? Well, that again is another subject matter that, well, if a person can't convey that to another person, and clearly they can't, this is the same way. The love of God is something that is so far exceeding anything that you can think of. It's like if you can think of the enlightenment that was expressed by Buddha and how wonderful that was. I'm telling you, that pales in comparison to the love of God if you can actually have that happen to you where you feel it. It is, I call it God enlightenment. It is a inner feeling. And there again, it's not a feeling. That's just the physical body that's expressing some sort of reaction to your awareness of what that really is. You are drawn to God. That is the power of God, the love that God has for you. And it is unconditional, by the way. And you are drawn to God because of that love. Now, you can be pushed to God. Well, you can't really, but people think you can push people to God. Satan or Shiva is the example of pushing from behind. It's like forcing you. You have to go and worship on Sunday. You have to obey these laws and these rules. You can't do this. You can't do that. You must do this. You must do that. There's an endless litany of things that are trying to force you into obedience so that you can be one with God. It will never work, because that has nothing to do with love. Love is a situation where the person that loves you says, you can do anything you want. You can hate me, you can kill me, you can betray me, you can be one with me, you can love me, you can whatever. You're free to do whatever it is you want to do. In fact, I want you to do whatever it is you want to do. Well, the question might come back from the person that's hearing you say that, and they might say, well, then you don't love me then if you don't want me to be with you or something like that. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, who cares what I want? I love you and I want you to be happy. Well, of course, that other person in a human relationship, a man and a wife or whatever the case may be nowadays, they might think, well, I want you to want me. And if you don't want me, then I don't want to be with you. So it's a very difficult way to express love, because in reality, the true love of God in an individual that is utilizing that same true love to another human being, that human being would place zero restrictions on that other person. And you all you would say is, I love you more than my own life. I would sacrifice my own life for you. That's how much I love you. Oh, well, do you want me to be with you? Well, yes, I do, but I don't want you to be with me if you don't want to be with me. But whatever your choice is, I will never betray you or not love you. When you know that about God, when you know that, then it changes everything. And you can't know that without having it be personal, directed to you. And that's never going to happen if you're not put into a life or death situation. Because in that life or death situation, spiritually speaking, just like the person that needs food, most people are going to do whatever it takes to get the food. Most people are not going to say, well, yeah, I'm starving to death and I would greatly appreciate it if I could have some food. But of course, that's your choice because it's not my food. But I'll be forever indebted to you. I really would like food. Well, I'm not going to give you any. I have plenty. I have more than enough, but I'm not going to give you any. Well, how many people would just go, well, okay, well, I appreciate it anyways. I'm going to die if you don't give me any food, but, you know, that's your prerogative. Yeah, I got a mountain of food. My vehicle's loaded with food. In fact, it's going to go to rot. I have so much, but I'm not going to give you any. Again, how many people would be in that situation where they wouldn't revolt and go, well, I'm taking it then. Well, that's where you have to be spiritually and go, well, then I'll just die because I'm not going to betray you. I love you so much that I'm not going to betray you. So that's where I was, spiritually speaking, before God goes, oh my gosh, I'll give you all the food you could ever possibly want, spiritual food. And but of course I didn't. And of course that was always the case, but I didn't know that. And so I think that's where everyone has to be, because prior to that, most people that say they love God, most people, they just take it for granted that God loves them. They just, you know, the flowers are beautiful and I smell the aroma and the wind is blowing and therefore I know God loves me. Yeah, you don't know God loves you until you're tested a life or death scenario. Other than that, you don't know. You're just speculating. So that love of God is absolutely real. It is everything. It makes life so enjoyable in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the body pains and aches, in spite of people betraying you, in spite of the governments and pain and suffering, and in spite of anything you can conceive of. When you have that love of God, that doorway open to where it's constantly coming into you, it doesn't change anything on the outside world. You're still going to have all the pain and suffering from the normal things that everyone has. It's just that everything else in comparison is like minuscule. It's like for a person that is super poor and you give them $100. Well, they would be going, oh man, that's a lot of money. Oh wow, thank you so very much. But how would a person that's a billionaire feel? Well, here's $100. Who cares? Take your money. I don't. That's. Does that make sense? Anyways, I don't know if I expressed it very well. I don't know if I gave it any more understanding than what you already had. I don't know if I'm able to convey it in such a way that it makes sense to you. But I will say that God loves you unconditionally. I have personal proof of it. And of course, when that happens, it also proves beyond shadow of a doubt that the concept that is being taught and always has been taught throughout the world of non-duality isn't true. And it's not just a consequence of going, well, logically, this is what would conclude that non-duality isn't true. No, it's not that. It is direct response from the Creator God telling you that the concept of non-duality isn't true. There's no ignorance in you after that sort of situation occurs. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I'll let you know if I have to sell my house and move and build, and if that's the case, you're going to have to look at my history of videos, because I might be a little bit inundated, which I'm not looking forward to be honest with you. But yeah, I might be a little bit inundated for a year or so. Anyways, thank you for watching. You have a good day. Bye.